You hear people say that Jake Paul rigs his fights quite a lot. I've never understood why, they don't really give an explanation, and I don't understand how you would actually go about rigging a fight. Let's break down where these claims actually come from. To start off with, when I first heard these claims, they came from the Tyron Woodley fight. Let's look at the knockout that happened in the second fight. People love to mention how Tyron dropped his hand on purpose, hence why they go for the term it's rigged. Now if we look at it right there, he does drop his hand and get knocked out, but if you look at it closely, the way that Jake Paul sets up the punch, he feints to the body. It's not the best feint, but you can see he's looking down and Tyron's cautious of a body punch. So right there, you can see he's clearly looking down, he's dipped down, Tyron notices, he brings his left hand down and gets caught. And there you go, that's how he gets knocked out. Now that to me, that's not a reason to call a fight rigged. That's called using a feint really well and setting up a punch. Ultimately, he got what he wanted out of the feint, which was to get Tyron to lower his guard so he can land the right hand over the top. Now another example people love to use is when Jake was twisting his glove in the fight. Now this can easily be a bad habit, but let's take a look at it. Over here, pay attention to his right hand. He twists it before actually throwing it. So right there, he's just twisted it, moves back, he twists it again, then he actually goes for the right hand. And that's the punch that knocked Tyron out. The way that some people saw this was, he signaled to Tyron to lower his guard so he can land the right hand, which just doesn't make sense. That can easily be a bad habit that he does in sparring, and if Tyron noticed that, you'd easily be able to tell that's a sign that he's going to throw his right hand. Effectively, he's telegraphing his punch by making it obvious that he's going to throw it. When he fought Tommy Fury, Tommy must have kept that in mind, that he twists his right hand before actually throwing it, as a way to defend the overhand right. I'm not someone that watches MMA, but I understand someone who would have watched Tyron in his prime wouldn't understand how something like this can happen. But you need to remember that Tyron is way out of his prime and he was in his 40s when he had that fight. Age is something that's going to catch up with everyone. I mean, yes, there are some people like Anderson Silva, like you saw the other day, knocked out Tyron, but he was an active fighter, so that's a different situation. When Jake Paul's fighting these retired people, you need to understand that they're a shell of themselves. They're not going to be the exact skill level as their prime. Now another fight I'm going to look at is against Chavez Jr, who's a former world champion that fought Canelo. I didn't watch this fight live, but people were saying how like Chavez just wasn't throwing, so it's rigged, which again, that's just something that's not valid and strong enough to throw that claim. Before we actually take a look at the fight, we need to understand a bit of background about Chavez Jr. So there's an article over here where his dad opens up about how his son's battling with a drug addiction. There were several failed attempts at rehab. He revealed that his son's prolonged absence from the ring was due to a 9-month spell in rehab. So we already know he's not really had the best situation before the fight. And this article was published in 2022. Now let's take a look at his box rec. So he has had quite a lot of bouts, 63, and we can see around 2022 when that article came out, that was after his fight against David. We can see Canelo right here, which was back in 2017, which was a while ago. That was what, like 8 years? So you need to keep in mind he's going to be a fraction of himself compared to the Canelo version. In this post-fight interview, he mentions how that he was tired.
I lost the first 5 rounds, so I tried to win the last 4 rounds, but Jake is good boxer, so after 4 rounds, I feel him tired, but a good boxer. So
that's very understandable. If he's not at the best pass, he's had addictions, his body's not going to be that good. It's going to be damaged from all of that. So him getting tired and not being able to throw punches makes sense. Not what like people are saying that it's rigged because he's not throwing. You need to understand the background of him. So here's some highlights of the fight. I'm not going to go through all of it, but you can clearly see that, look, he's gun shy, he's not really throwing. Now, that doesn't cross my mind saying that it's rigged. Outside of the ring, he just hasn't had the best lifestyle and he's been going through stuff. So Jake picked him at the right time. Now the third fight we need to talk about is him against Mike Tyson. I don't know why when this first came out, people were saying how Mike's gonna knock him out, it's his first real fighter, but they completely neglected that Mike's 60 years old. Now there were a lot of training videos that Mike Tyson was putting out of him training. You can see he does not look bad for a 60-year-old. But look at the amount of cuts that there are in this clip. What Mike's not going to show is himself huffing and puffing between combinations. I never understood why Tyson would actually take this fight. Maybe money was the only incentive, or he just really missed the idea of preparing for a fight and actually getting in the ring. When he was in the ring fighting, you can clearly see between rounds he was huffing and puffing, he had nothing left in him. And he was even crying as well, which is wild. Like, he just knew he had nothing in him because of how old he actually is. So I understood why Jake Paul would hold back and not knock him out. I think the reason why people love throwing the word rig around is because it looks like a friendly sparring session. It didn't really look like an actual fight. The reason I believe that is because once Jake Paul got in there, he saw that Mike Tyson really just isn't a threat. He's 60 years old, he's going to be weak, his stamina just isn't going to be there. So he thought, let me not make it dark for his fans and knock him out. I'll just go the distance and secure the win, which is respectable. What did not make sense to me is the fact that it's on their actual pro records. So this fight, it was 8 2-minute rounds, 14-ounce gloves, so an exhibition fight. But then it's on Box Pro, which Jake came out and said that the reason for this is because Mike Tyson wanted it to be on his actual pro record. That could be because he's getting paid more money, but something that just didn't make sense to me. The fight itself, it ended up being the most viewed fight in history with 108 million views on Netflix. I know it's not pay-per-view, so it's slightly different if you compare it to something like Pacquiao and Mayweather, which is 4.6. The fact that so many people tuned in to watch this just showed the people who got robbed were the fans. Now at the end of the day, everyone hating on Jake Paul would still want to watch him over some prospect that's deciding to turn pro. Now the last fight I want to talk about is his recent one against Anthony Joshua. When we first heard that this fight was in talks, no one believed it and they all just said, yeah, Jake Paul's gonna get killed because of what happened to Ngannou. And then what ended up happening was he announced that he's fighting Tank, so he just used AJ's name as promo. And then when that fell out, that's when we got to see AJ and Paul confirmed, which was just random. It did make sense to me because AJ was gonna fight, I don't even remember his name, I think it was Cassius something. It was gonna be a warm-up fight on the 22nd where he just turns up and fights. I believe that was the Benavidez and Yard undercard. So regardless of it being Jake Paul or some guy we don't know, the intention for AJ was to have a warm-up fight to set up 2026. For some reason, everyone believed that AJ was going to take a dive. AJ confirmed in the press conference that there's no clauses in the contracts.
There's nothing in the contract. AJ can attest to it. We're going to war, and that's the end of the day that all my fights have been like.
Yeah, nothing in the contract. What can I say? Yeah, there's nothing in the contract.
And the reason why people believe that there's clauses is they don't understand why someone with Jake Paul's skill level will take on someone that's world level. What you need to remember with Jake is, even though he's not the best boxer, a lot of people hate him, he's shown the entertainment side and the social media side of boxing where you can be the villain and people would want to watch you. Like, there's a reason why a lot of people tune in to watch Jake Paul over some Olympian that's turning pro. To get the average person to pay for a fight, they have to be entertained. Not everyone's a boxing purist. So from a financial standpoint, AJ's team saw that he needs a warm-up. If he fights a pro that no one really knows, he's not really going to make that much money. And yes, he's going to get what he wants out of it, which is a warm-up. But then Jake Paul fight, it's a no-brainer. He gets what he wants and a bunch of money.
The only thing that was in the contract that got my attention was the money. Other than that, I didn't worry about nothing else.
Eddie Hearn did confirm it's not as big as payday. It would have been a lot more than he got on the 22nd if he fought Cassius. To sum it all up, I don't believe Jake Paul's out here rigging his fights. I think people misunderstand the context and the matchmaking that goes behind it. Jake's usually smart with his opponents. He knows to pick people that are old and a shell of themselves, but still have that star power. That way he can generate as much money as he can. And that's not the same thing as rigging a fight. In terms of the AJ fight, I don't think it was a smart decision in terms of matchmaking from a health standpoint. Yes, there would have been a financial incentive for Netflix to put on a big show as the Tank fight got cancelled, but he ended up with a broken jaw in 2 different places and he could have potentially got killed. If you believe Jake Paul genuinely rigs his fight, please explain to me in the comments because I don't understand how you actually go about rigging a fight. It's a skill in itself to actually rig something. I'm sure if they staged a knockout, people sat ringside will be able to clearly tell that it's fake.